Definitely varies. Every file is dynamic.
Just like how she was saying, it just depends on what the bank gives, you take your money out of that.
I mean, it's very dynamic. When a realtor brings me a deal, it's a little different because they're not investors. Investors just want the house. If it so happens to be an investor deal, okay? Realtors are a little bit different because we're working with commissions, okay? Yes, we can play with the HUD, we can put consulting fees, we can put short sale processing fees. There's a lot that we can do. So the way I like to do is I typically, for realtors, charge 1% per lien. If there's 2 mortgages, then we'll work that out, depends on the dollar amount. Sometimes they reduce commission from 6% to 5%. I just got an email that one of my commissions were reduced from 6 to 5, and it's deal by deal. So these are things that when you bring a deal to me, we discuss these things. And I say, listen, this is how it's looking, this is what you can expect if you bring your own buyer, this is what you can expect if you co-broke with somebody, but here's my fee, you know? And again, it's just so dynamic that it's hard to just to lock. I don't want to lock myself in right now, but when we run title, when we do that pull and we see what's really under the hood, that's really when things start to get finalized a little bit. Okay, in terms of, and Crystal, you know, mentioned this: judgments, liens, credit cards, your Hyundai payment, whatever it is. All these things can pop up. So it's very dynamic. I usually like to cap it around 2.5% for realtors, but that's really how it goes. That's pretty much the breakdown. Does it make sense to everybody?
Yes.
What's the next page?
Right,
All right,
Payoff.
payoff. This also goes hand in hand with doing your due diligence. All right. Helen Collins is no longer with us, so you know, in this file closed a year and a half ago, so I'm not worried about it.
Phil, we got a question.
Yes.
Question, before you go to payoff, I've had situations where they're asking me, like, let's say it's Wells Fargo, the attorney will mention investors and servicers, like, can you explain the difference?
Absolutely. So, give me a minute. Let me break this down as simple as possible. So, you have bear with me. You have what's called, are you guys familiar with mortgage-backed securities? Okay, basically what they do in order to, what investors do in order to be able to continuously fund homes is they will often sell loans, right, Matt? That's very common. Loans often get sold. Sometimes they get packaged, et cetera, et cetera. So people who are purchasing these loans is what you would call the investor, okay? It could be individual loans, it could be by pool.
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac,
Right, it could
Ginnie
be
Mae.
Freddie Mac, it could be wrapped up in a trust. But those are the investors that they speak of, okay? Wells Fargo, sometimes they hold on to the paper, sometimes they sell it. It depends on how their books look, okay? But that's typically, I think I'm describing what you're asking.
Yeah, cause like, so I'm not sure if sometimes, like, if I have a client that their loan is with Wells Fargo,
Right.
am I supposed to dig in further, find out who the investor is, or who am I negotiating with? Am I negotiating with
You're
Wells Fargo or
negotiating
someone
with-
else?
You're negotiating with who they get their mortgage statement from,
Okay,
okay? So, for example, I have a ton of loans with private investors that, you know, from New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and they're all serviced by Rushmore Loan Servicing, okay? They're a terrible servicer. I hate them. Okay?
Make note of that.
Rushmore is a terrible, and it's almost like a double-edged sword. They're very upfront with you. They say, this is what we want for the property. Can you meet it or exceed it? Period. Can we do an appraisal? We're not doing an appraisal. This is what we need. You understand? Rushmore is the servicer, so they are servicing a loan on behalf of their investors, but the investors are actually local guys, okay? A group or many different groups, etc. Okay? So, does that answer the question?
yeah.
So the servicer is not always the bank or the investor, right? Right. I mean, there are loans that have been defaulted on subprime that have been purchased for 12.5 cents on the dollar at this point. okay? So I have a file right now where it transferred investors and servicers 6 different times in the past 10 years, okay? So that happens, all right? Any other questions?
So do we want to intercept with the service of before it goes to auction? Is that what we want to
Do we want to interject before it goes to auction?
Yes. In
Intercept.
other words, we don't want the property to go to auction.
Absolutely. If it gets foreclosed on, who's gonna make the money?
Right.
The foreclosure, you know, Toddy Avino with Island Advantage and Mike Carroll and those guys, they're gonna make the money.
I see those guys everywhere.
They are everywhere.
Yeah.
They have huge contracts and really meaningful relationships. So,
Meaningful relationships?
very meaningful relationships.
You're alive, remember that.
He said what he said.
I used to work with Todd. I did a stint at Island Advantage, so it's nothing but love, you know? Nothing but love. So,
The servicers are really the people you as agents, we want to forge some sort of a relationship with,
on our end,
yeah.
unfortunately, there's no way we can forge some sort of long-term relationship with them. If anything, it's a bad relationship because they get pretty annoyed with us when we're negotiating. And I actually make a joke, this is how you know you're experienced when you've been doing it for a while. When out of 100 different servicers, and each servicer has 100 different reps, you get the same guy twice, and he's like, oh, you again? So that has happened to me, and they don't like it because what we're looking to do is we're looking to accomplish our mission, which is, I'm not gonna say that we're swaying property value. We're not doing any of that. But if a house is messed up and it should be, and it's not financeable, then we're gonna treat it as such. We're gonna price it as such. But they don't see it that way. Right. They're saying, oh, well, it needs 80 grand in repairs, so let's just deduct 80 grand from fair market value. No, there's an inconvenience factor. It's not mortgageable. How do we compensate? How do, you know, where's the, how do we make this make sense to somebody? And the answer is an investor. It makes sense to him because if we can get it for a price where he can make a profit, he's gonna take on that inconvenience factor and make that his profit. That's his business model. It's to capitalize on the inconvenience factor. Whereas most home buyers are not gonna say, oh yeah, this place needs a tear down, no problem. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way the banks and servicers kind of think, which is makes my job 10 times harder. So we have to convince them why they need to include that inconvenience factor, why this is probably gonna go for $150,000 instead of, you know, $350 or $300. You know what I'm saying? Did I lose anybody? Good. All right. So I'm gonna jump back into due diligence. Something that I like to do that not everybody agrees with me on is I like to order a payoff. Again, due diligence before sitting with the homeowner, right? On is everybody on Frank and Lambert? If I'm approaching somebody who's very close in terms of equity and fair market value, okay? I need to be able to relay my professional opinion in an honest way, right? The most honest version of it. Sometimes the short sale doesn't make sense. Sometimes it does, okay? So, I was on a listing appointment on Monday where our outstanding accelerated balance was $380. After some fees, it should be somewhere around $410, you know, late fees, et cetera, okay? $410, this is Queens Village, single family Queens Village. House was a 9 out of 10, but she's behind on her mortgage. Everybody automatically assumes it's a short sale. It's probably not. I didn't receive the payoff yet, but it's probably not a short sale. So how good would I be an honest broker if I said, yeah, we're gonna do the short sales and then try to give this to an investor for $300,000? It just doesn't, I'm not doing that. I do way too many files. I have way too many, you know, pending deals, good relationships that I don't wanna mess up. And I'm young, so I also don't wanna screw over my career, right? So I said, listen, I'm gonna take the listing, we're gonna leave the price open, and we're gonna wait till we get this payoff, right? And if the payoff comes at $410, she's gonna walk away with 150 grand probably. Watch out for the guys that say, yeah, this is a short sale. How's it gonna become a short sale when it's worth $600,000? It's no longer short, right? It's just a regular sale. So we have to watch out for that. On the flip side, this is a short sale class, right? So we do the payoff on this particular house. The amount due for payoff is $577. Boston 2-family in the Bronx. Had every issue you could possibly think of. Okay? This was a Rushmore deal, by the way. And they said, we want to net 310, which was extremely high for an investor. It was one of my best guys. He took it just for me. All right. They said we want 310, and I think we started at 220. And I said, okay, so you want 220. I mean, you want 310. I'm at 220. We should like meet in the middle. I sent the HUD. Let's meet in the middle. And they literally closed the file. That's the equivalent of slamming the door in somebody's face. Okay. So that happens. But I did order the payoff. I did realize it was a short sell. At the end of the day, the investor still took the deal because there was still money to be made. Not as much as he would like for the amount of work, but there was still a deal to be made. So payoff, what's needed for this? That's gonna take me to the next one. By the way, I'm sorry guys, I wish I had like a board or, you know, next time. It's alright. It's too late. They're working with me. So, all right. So this is the biggest package here, right? Again, as a real estate broker, what I did. This is a form I did draft for you guys. You guys can copy this. You can put your own whatever. So one, it says Axe on the top left. That's my company. We're awesome. Very good. All right, so this is a third-party authorization that I made myself, okay? I typed it up myself, I thought about it myself, I used some things as reference, but this is mine. And the reason why I did this is because it's generic, okay? It's not specific to Wells Fargo, SPS, Rushmore, SLS, it's not specific to any bank. And with this, I can do a whole lot. I can go down to the town, pull records, that I would otherwise need an authorization for, an affidavit or something like that. I can request documents from the foreclosure attorneys with this document. So it kind of blankets, and it works for some banks too, okay? So I definitely encourage you guys to create or copy my generic third-party authorization form. What the third-party authorization form does is it gives you authorization to speak on their behalf and in some capacities act on their behalf. Okay? Which is literally what we're doing when we call up the bank and say, hey, I'm initiating this short sale. We're speaking on behalf of the seller, right? I mean, they could do it on their own. They could initiate it on their own. Most people like to bury their head in the sand, though. So they hire guys like me and you guys, right? On the next page, you'll see one from Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo will not take anything but a Wells Fargo third-party authorization. Okay? They've been good to me sometimes.
Many people have been notarized?
No. None of these ones have to be notarized, but they cannot be docu-signed. They have to be wet ink. Okay? Make a note of that. They have to be wet ink. Nowadays, they're accepting wet docu-sign on listing agreements, lead paint. That's okay now. You know, just got approved in Arizona, all that stuff. For short sale purposes, they will not approve docu-sign or digital signatures. Very important. It will get kicked back and you'll find out 10 days later. And at that point, you wasted 10 days. Okay? This is what we call a request for mortgage assistance. We call it RMA for short. Any servicer will know what you're talking about. We're just gonna flip through this quickly, but this information all comes from your seller. Okay? And I just realized I might have said borrower at some point, but borrower is what we call the seller because they borrowed on the loan. They borrowed the loan. Okay? So, you know, basic stuff, name, date of birth, etc., social. Don't be shy to ask for social security numbers. We're professionals, right? There's no reason to be scared to ask for that. Bankruptcy, very important. If they're currently in bankruptcy, it's a whole separate department that we need to kick to. Does that make sense to everybody? If it's in bankruptcy, it's a whole separate department. So we have to let the bank know if we're in bankruptcy, if we're not in bankruptcy, or if midway we do go into bankruptcy. Does that make sense? So at that point, they do magical things like there's no, like the auction date gets postponed, and then they have to get their attorneys involved, and the whole situation gets taken very seriously at that time. Let's go to page 3 of 11. This is something I definitely want to touch on. Who's done a short sale here before? Do they ask for money? The seller.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody asks for money. Anytime, they don't pay for 5, 10 years in some cases, and they always want money at the end.
I had a
Right?
guy, he didn't pay for about 9 years.
Right.
He was maybe like, he bought the house for like 800 in Brooklyn. Bought the house for 800, didn't pay the mortgage for 9 years. I don't know how he didn't get foreclosed on in such a long
Happens.
amount of time. He owed like 1.29, and then he was like, yeah, so I want to sell it, and I still want to walk away with like 200 grand. I'm like, what?
It happens. It happens.
Vegas can't be cheap.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not even gonna sell for this price.
This is a sidebar, but especially in a market like Brooklyn, you have a lot of people making a lot of promises, okay? So, what I like to do is say, listen, you're not guaranteed anything. Understand you've been living rent and mortgage free for a very long time. Hopefully you save some money.
You could have saved up 200K.
Exactly. Rarely does it happen. 95% of the time they do not save a dime, unfortunately. But what I do try to explain and I try to make this make sense to them is that, you know, A, you should have been saving, and B, the bank, you know, this is asking for a short sale, that is not a right. It's not a right. You're asking them for an opportunity to move on and forgive your debt. You know what I'm saying? Or a balance of your debt. What I do say to keep their hopes up is that I always apply for relocation assistance. Okay? I always apply for it. Back when, not to get political, but back when Obama was in office, things were a lot easier. We had a lot of incentives. They worked with the banks to make sure that they incentivize homeowners to take appropriate steps. That doesn't happen so much in the past couple of years, okay? So with all that being said, in order for us to get relocation assistance from the bank, it must be their primary residence. It's an investment property, they don't live there anymore, they're not getting relocation assistance. The standard would be somewhere around $10,000, now it's as low as $3,500. But it's something, especially when you're the ones who haven't been paying for X amount of time, okay? So you do want to give them a little bit of hope, especially when they're fielding all these offers from other people, right? Especially in Brooklyn.
Yep.
So there's that, but it has to be a primary residence and it has to be owner occupied, okay?
What about those family deals where somebody from the family will buy it and cut a deal with the current homeowner? Do you see
I'm
that?
so glad you asked that. Awesome attorney, by the way, in the back. Hi, Sharon. Are you leading me to arm's length transactions?
I'm just leading you to what actually I've been approached with by family
To the
members.
family deals, okay. So, family members will not be able to buy this. Okay, I want to sell it to my brother, sister, cousin, my cousin's lover, my great grandmother, my friend. We've had deals canceled at the table because somebody lived at that house 15 years prior. Let me say that again. We've had deals canceled at the table and short sale approvals withdrawn because the buyer was a tenant 15 years ago. Okay? I have a lot of information with the software I have, and I can find that information out. I promise the bank has way more than I have. So, family members cannot purchase. It needs to be an arm's length transaction, meaning, I guess I'll give an example. Obviously, the name arm's length is because it needs to be further than your arm, whatever. But yeah, I mean, all those scenarios, you're going to be approached with those scenarios. You're going to have people who want to bring a straw buyer into the equation. It's fraud. Don't do it. Advise against it. If somebody insists on it, say, you know what, I really can't help you. Okay? Because everybody here has a lot of short sales to go. We can't get messed up on one.
So the potential buyer was a tenant, they cannot.
Correct. And that was a new one for me because, like many people, I thought it was like a friends and family type thing. Basically, pre-existing relationships is the blanket terminology for arm's length transaction. There's no pre-existing relationship. If you had a drink with the investor at one point, don't sell it.
It's New York.
That is, where's Chris? Sharon, is that New York law? Or is
Let's
that
assume-
nationwide law?
Probably better.
I'm gonna assume for now New York law, 'cause that's what I do.
Let's just call it New York,
Yeah,
because
I
we're
mean,
in the state of
that's-
New York.
Well, that's
I-
relevant to
We do sign arm's length transaction affidavits, the deals in North Carolina, South Carolina, Miami, California. I process nationwide on behalf of people, agents, brokers, investors, whatever. And we always have to send it out. The thing is, we're agreeing to their stipulations as part of the short sale, okay? So, I mean, is it exactly a law? No, it's a stipulation to get the
Okay.
deal done, but it translates into essentially mortgage fraud if you break
Right.
it.
Just to let you know, you're signing, the buyer is signing something saying that he does not know, he's not allowing, you know, the owner to live in the house.
Right.
It's tempting because it's out there. For some people it's tempting, but for others, know where to draw the line. And don't
Right.
cross that line, like you say, it's just not worth it.
For one deal, for
It's
two
just
deals,
not.
doesn't matter. If you
They,
make 10
they
grand
will
off a
get
deal,
you, they will find you.
50 grand, doesn't matter if you make 100 grand, let it go, because we have a whole life to live. Everybody here is young, right?
How
So,
deep do they go into that?
Oh,
I mean,
deep.
If I went to the same school, but
Oh,
nah. I mean, listen. Facebook came out, what, 12 years ago, so, I mean,
we're all connected.
right, we are connected, but they don't want to see you Facebook friends. They don't want to see that. That's the first place they look. They look for a mutual connection. Seriously. They really do.
Right.
That's mine,
It's not a real response. But,
That's crazy.
the thing, you gotta understand, from the bank's point of view, I'm gonna take a $150,000, $200,000 hit on this home. If we're losing money, I don't want anybody to gain. Nobody's pulling a blanket over our eyes.
And least of all, the seller, the homeowner.
Exactly. And you sign an affidavit that says, I'm not profiting from this transaction in any way other than what's approved on the HUD. That's where the relocation assistance comes in. It needs to be approved by them. And for relocation, you need like current utility bills. You need to prove that you still live there and you need help getting out and moving on with life. So, man.
Question, if I'm renting a home and the owner is in foreclosure, can I do a short sale with the owner?
When you say, can you do a short sale, what do you mean? You're a broker?
I'm just, no, just an individual.
Can you buy?
Yeah, can I buy it?
No, there would be.
That was the very first example I gave. I'll repeat it one more time.
That's crazy.
At the closing table, the bank reneged on the short sale approval because the buyer was a tenant that lived there 15 years ago.
He was
15
current
years ago. That's half of my life.
But he can refer that to another agent and take a referral fee.
We're talking about buyers and sellers at this point. Forget about the agent. We're talking about buyers and sellers. The buyer cannot have a pre-existing relationship with the seller.
No, but the agent can represent the homeowner
Yes.
that's in the short sale.
Yes, yes.
If he's a realtor, he can market it and sell it.
Right.
But he can't buy it for his own personal use.
I can do a short sale in my mom's house. It doesn't matter as an agent. It's just that the buyer of the property cannot have a pre-existing relationship with the seller.
Yeah,
They can have a pre-existing relationship with me, but not the seller. I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that.
So, I once heard of an attorney that the way he structured his fee, it seemed extremely off, but wrong. He charged the seller like 10%, or the buyer, a 10% clip, so to say,
You charge the buyer?
the buyer.
Was it on the HUD?
Probably not.
If it's not on the HUD, it's a no-go. If it's on the HUD, it's a go. Very
So
simple.
is that typical, like a 10% attorney fee of, if, you know, the bank was paying him, let's say 2,500,
Right?
and then what he
As a settlement
wanted
agent?
is, let's say he negotiated for the buyer, it was a great deal, let's say the house was worth 600,000, and let's just say he negotiated the short sale for 400,000, so,
Mhm.
so he wanted 10% from the buyer, $20,000.
He wanted 10% from the
Yeah,
buyer.
to get it that low, if you got it for 300,000, would have made
Again, I mean,
30,000.
again, it depends if it was on the HUD or not. See, here's the weird thing about HUDs is that I can put the same fee, and it depends on how I describe what that fee is used for, if they'll approve it or not.
Right.
Okay?
So that can be a line item that said,
As long as the bank approves the line item, absolutely. As long as they approve the line item.
I'd be surprised if they would.
It depends on how you word it. I've personally done things,
Like a consult fee or
absolutely.
negotiating
Negotiating fees, depends on the bank. I mean, I closed on a deal on Monday, when it was a busy day for me, but I closed the deal on Monday. They rejected $139 in open water, but paid a $2,500 fee for consulting.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, I had open water that was borderline delinquent. So it's really up to the bank, but that's short sale 102.
Are all fees on the HUD? So like let's say if I have a buyer and I'm their buyer's agent, I have a buyer's agency agreement with them, and that I say my fee is 10% on that agreement. Does that have to be on the HUD, or
If they approve, so it should be on the HUD.
if the
If they
buyer is
approve-
paying me?
Right. Because it's a buyer's expense. So if it's on the HUD and they approve it, you're good to go. But let me ask you guys a question. I want you to really think about it. If the house is going for $250 and it's worth substantially more, and you know your investor's good with paying you $25 on the side, why would the bank approve you making another $25 when they can get another $25 and they're losing on the deal?
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. They're gonna say that's my money. That's not your money, agent.
Your process of getting the short sale approved, are you in contract with the bank or like, so the bank has to see a fully executed contract, right?
Does the bank have to see a fully executed contract?
During your process of negotiating, like, don't you have to put like a good faith deposit down to?
So it depends on the bank. Again, you have banks like Rushmore, they're like, just give me a HUD, a proposed HUD, preliminary HUD to be exact. I've gotten away with sales agreements.
I've heard things of an investor literally put down $500 to put down a contract.
The deal on Monday, he put $0 down.
Exactly, so I was like,
You gotta know your broker.
Right.
You gotta know you have to know everybody in the deal to get away with stuff like that. Most attorneys on the seller side won't accept zero down. But it can happen, because it has happened.
On the short sales, are they generally cash deals, or they don't mind financing, or is it within 2 weeks to close?
It depends, look, it depends.
You can do both, either?
It depends. 80 to 90% of my deals are cash deals.
Are those looked at more favorably by the seller lender?
By the lender.
By the seller of, let's say Wells Fargo?
Oh,
If you present a
they really don't care.
$350,000,
They don't care. They will wait for their extra money.
Oh.
I mean, you've been waiting so long.
They've been waiting 10 years.
Yeah.
They'll wait 30 extra days for an extra 50 grand, 40 grand on somebody who can finance it. But the house has to be mortgageable.
Oh.
The house has to be mortgageable, you know? So if it's not mortgageable, we have to relay that to them in a way that they understand.
And they never send anyone to the property, right? It's never-
Absolutely.
All they do.
They'll do either a BPO or an appraisal. BPO is a broker price opinion. They'll send somebody like myself. I used to do a ton. Happy to over there. We go and give a broker price opinion and say, look, this is what our CMA is coming up with. On appraisal, it's a little more official. On reverse mortgages, they always do appraisals. And they'll give you, then they will relay that information. Look, your offer's 300, the appraisal's coming in at 350. What can we do? And that's when negotiations really begin. That happens pretty much 60% into the process. More questions?
So do you find that banks that are going through the short sale, if you go behind the scenes, is their attitude very, we want to work with you? Like, we want this to happen, how can we make it work?
You ever been to the DMV?
I try not to.
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right, so we are on page.
One more question, are you
Go ahead.
negotiating with the attorney for, let's say the bank's Wells Fargo? Are you always negotiating with a specific attorney, or is there a 1-800,
Well, we're
short sale
negotiating with
department?
customer service reps for the bank.
Right.
There are foreclosure attorneys involved, and we can reach out to them for information. For example, the payoff. I mean, I get the payoff from the attorneys, they'll send it in 3 days versus 10.
Right.
So I always go to the attorneys for the payoff, because I'll get it in 3 days.
Oh, okay.
If there's an auction coming up, I get a lot of information from the attorneys. I'll say, look, I have a short sale, full complete package in, can we stay this foreclosure auction? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say hell no, just like that. And then they're people, they're professionals. Things can be worked out. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So there is a level of communication with the attorneys
Right.
if you know what you're doing.
right. That's what I meant, like, isn't it, you would think they're representing their client, they wanna get the best deal for their client. They also wanna keep it moving and get it off
They
their
want what's in
table.
best interest for their client.
Right,
And a foreclosure auction, 9 times out of 10 is not in the best interest of
Right.
the client. A short sale actually pays off more so
right.
than a
You know,
foreclosure would.
generally, the short sale
Absolutely.
would yield a higher.
Absolutely, probably about 20 to 25%.
Right,
More money's owed than foreclosure, right? The short sale, you're kind of stopping, if I'm not mistaken, the short sale process, you're stopping foreclosure from being dragged out.
So there's more expenses involved as time goes on.
Right, of course.
So you have to foreclose on it. If nobody buys it at the auction, then they have to buy the property back. Okay. And then now you have title to deal with. You have to make sure that the property is secure. The bank. The bank is now taking ownership. If they foreclose, one or two things can happen at the auction stairs. All right. Somebody can buy it. If nobody buys it, the bank can purchase it back. Okay. For the full amount of whatever's owed. That's why sometimes you'll see recent sale. Fannie Mae owns this property at $600,000. You're like, 600,000? It's Hempstead, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. That's because they buy it back at the full balance. But it's more like a paperwork thing, just to make line items square up.
They don't actually purchase it though, right? They don't.
Not entirely, no.
Oh, okay.
Not entirely, no.
Gotcha.
So, but when they do that, they're taking ownership of it, with the title issues, with whatever violations are there. And things can get kind of pricey. They don't want to do that. They'd rather an investor come along and say, okay, I'll satisfy the title. Let me negotiate with the IRS. Let me negotiate with Hyundai, Capital One.
Right, right.
And it's like you kind of package it up nicely and get it done.
And that's where you move.
That's what I negotiate everything.
Gotcha.
I negotiate everything.
I'm gonna definitely need that.
Sounds good. So, all right, let's move along. We're almost done, guys. So obviously, we spoke on this. Page 5. Do you have any additional liens or judgments on the property? Does everybody have Exhibit C?
Yes.
Anybody look here yet?
I didn't understand it. I
Okay.
just like saw someone from the
So this is from a title report, actually. And I always encourage that we do a soft search as soon as possible. You don't have to insure the property right away or insure title right away, but do a soft search so you can see what judgments, liens, etc. pop up, okay? So on the first page, after Exhibit C, you'll see creditor, Capital One Bank, $2,091.59. Has to be satisfied before we close. Right? Right?
Now, I keep it going, I'm sorry. You're getting this online or at the office?
I'm getting this from my attorneys.
Oh, okay.
It's
Or my
part of the
title-
Soft
title,
search.
From my title company.
it's part of the
Is it
title
title,
search.
the titlesearch.com, something like that?
Mm,
You gotta
No.
pay for that.
I wouldn't
Like-
use those, but
Well, it's like what, it's like service.
let me put it this
or
way.
something like that.
Whoever's purchasing the property is going to pay for this information anyway, before, prior to closing. Have them do it early. If they're committed to buying this property, say, hey, go get a, yeah, order title.
Shark. Like Title Shark, is like
I've heard of them, but you know, I've never dealt with them. I just trust my attorneys way more.
you just let the attorney
Yeah,
look, right?
just-
The attorney will, right, so the attorney will run the whole title search and they'll tell you, listen, this has to be satisfied prior. to
Right,
closing.
right. It'll show you when it needs to be satisfied. Title reports are about definitely more than this. Probably my last one was 85 pages. Okay, so I tend to keep those on the computer and try not to print them out. 85 pages. That was the last one. I've seen some 100 pages. I've seen some 50 pages.
Depends what the last name of the party is. Sometimes all the judgments will come out on a name. Let's say you're looking up Smith.
Right.
You may have 100 pages, but not everyone
There's
is
that too.
on the head.
Yeah. There's that
which
too.
is-
That definitely adds a few pages to
Right.
it. But you have more. They're looking for mortgages, liens,
Right.
judgments. They're looking for. They got their copy of the original deed, or you know, they want to show that there's no break and change.
So then, once that report gets, so if I'm buying a house, my attorney prints out everything, let's say, I don't have the experience to negotiate everything, that's
Mm.
where I get someone to pull you off and say, listen,
You
I have a
could.
deal here, I need you to help me negotiate all these liens, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could. You know, I'm not here selling my services, but if you guys want to do business with me, absolutely. This is what we do on a daily basis. I'm in my office 12 hours a day doing this stuff. So that's what we do. I mean, and this is a big help to me because the last thing we want to do is be a week before closing and find out we have all these things that need to be negotiated. We never pay the full balance on this, by the way. I mean, $2,000 is not a big deal. We can figure that out. But if you go on the next page, you'll see the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance.
131.
That one's for $13,103, right?
Negotiable?
Everything's negotiable. Everything's negotiable, believe it or not. ECB's violations, it's all negotiable. And we do that too. That's why it was hard for me to give a definitive answer on what do I charge for my services, because this can come up mid-deal, and if somebody agreed to pay $250 for the property, who's paying this? Not the seller. You know what I'm saying? The bank is willing to pay some of it, sometimes, but we have to negotiate it, you know what I'm saying?
So
I think-
violations and ECBs and everything affect all this?
Absolutely, they all have to be cleared, otherwise you can't insure title. I mean, some people do, some people hold money in escrow, stuff like that. That's a possibility, but for the most part, everybody wants to see,
Clear
things
title.
clear, free and clear, you know?
Do you find that these creditors take off, will take off 20% just for the asking? If, you know, take it instead of 10,000, 8,000 without sweating
Oh,
it?
they'll take off more, they'll take off more. We've had $50,000, judgments that we negotiated as $8 grand, 10 grand. So, because we tell them, look, this is my seller, they have nothing, they're short selling the house, and this is what we have. And 9 times out of 10 that works. Whether it's Amex, you know, like Hyundai, Toyota, you know, that happens too. When you get your car repo, they attach what they lose on the car to your house if you have a house. That they will do that. They get that judgment. They want their money. You know what I'm saying? But look at the next page though. Look at the last page in that Exhibit C. To the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 lines down. What's that number?
54,432.
You think that might mess up your deal?
Hell yeah.
This is a real file, by the way. This is a real file that I did, that I'm doing right now. So collectively, I have, I don't know,
70 grand.
roughly 70 grand to negotiate here.
What do they owe the Department of Finance?
Like-
What is that?
Taxes?
That's taxes.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
for the tax.
county taxes.
Okay.
So you have your county, you have your state, you have your federal, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I don't know exactly what this is, what the breakdown is
So that's
for.
what someone in the boroughs will have to pay for the tax.
Yeah, somebody knows, but she obviously does not pay taxes or bills, you know?
Yeah.
So that was pretty much Exhibit C. I just wanted to show you guys all the things that could come up during the course of title search, negotiating a short sale. These are all things that somebody like myself deals with to get a file clear to close.
But now, everything on the title search, it's not like you're dealing with one person consolidating, right? You have to go individually to every.
Absolutely individually. Individually.
So you're all over.
So I have to call IRS,
That's
I have to call
crazy.
NYC, I have to call Capital One,
Yeah.
I have to call your Home Depot credit card servicing. Not to mention the first position, Wells Fargo, and then maybe a second lien as well.
Does that authorization that you have cover? Could you
The
give?
generic one does.
That's what this is.
The generic one does.
Yeah, generic, okay.
That's why I love to have something like that, so, you know,
Exactly.
I can negotiate on a lot of things.
Unless, like you said, like Wells Fargo, they have like
Right.
their specific one that they pull when they accept.
So the Wells Fargo one was for Wells Fargo, the generic one was for all the judgments, liens, et cetera, with the town. And for the most part, everything was.
Right, only for, but they
So
don't.
not too often do you find banks who are like, no, only use our
They think
form.
I would say.
Most of the time, the big banks, Bank of America, they want their own forms, stuff like that.
Okay.
And you have like servicers, there's a difference between banks and servicers. Servicers are a little more lenient,
Because
but it doesn't matter, at the end of the day, it's just a signature.
you've agreed to pay them back. Now, hold fair, I'm not gonna warn, you know? You don't pay me
It's
back.
commission based
I'm not
and
gonna,
or HUD based.
well, I'm not
So
gonna,
it can come in
you
as a
know.
consulting fee, it can come in as a short sale processing fee. If that doesn't fly with the bank, because it depends on who's reviewing the file, then it comes out of commission.
So let's say you do this work and they're just not negotiating and the buyer pulls out. That means.
Pretty much.
Well,
That happens too.
yeah.
That happens too. Realtors, we're in business.
So,
You win some, you lose some.
when it comes to realtors, so I have a situation that just came up last night on my way home from work. I get a call, somebody called, they think there's a property that may be going into foreclosure, pre-foreclosure. So a realtor found the property,
Mhm.
but he doesn't know how to negotiate short sales. So they called me and said, do you handle short sales? Sure. I said to myself, I'm going to the seminar tomorrow. No problem, I got you covered. So I kept saying, let me run title, do a soft search.
Right.
That's what I'm doing. I did that last night. I put in the order. I said, I'll have it back by Friday. Let's see what we're dealing with. We'll see who's holding paper here,
Right.
what's owed, judgments, what we're dealing with. So he says, oh, this is very, and I'm gonna give you to somebody, I told him,
Okay.
who could handle this for you. He's a realtor, but he's also a short sale expert. He'll do all the negotiating. Oh, so he said to me, this is very delicate because I'm dealing with this realtor. I don't want him to feel like I'm squeezing him out.
Right.
I said, no problem. He's allowed to still be the realtor of record.
For sure.
And as long as you put it in to your HUD or CD, you're still using the word HUD, now they're using the CDs.
We're still
but-
doing, well, CDs is for the closing disclosures.
but, yeah.
That's more when it's,
Ready to close.
financing, you know?
Right,
That's-
oh, okay.
We're typically dealing with, cash deals.
Oh, when you're doing the cash, it's not.
So we're only doing 2 pages of the
Right, so
HUD.
I said to him, not a problem, he will get paid, he'll be part of the,
Mhm.
is that, did I tell him correctly? In other words, how
Pretty
does
much, yeah.
that
I mean,
work?
I always try to protect the realtor's commission.
Right.
I say that like I'm not a realtor, but I always try to protect the realtor's commission, and I try to get as much as I can on the HUD from the bank side
Right,
as a consulting fee, whatever it may be.
Right.
Doesn't always fly, but you know nobody likes to work for free, so
right,
I
so
have
that's
that
how you
use-
do it, in other words, as long as you submit it,
put it on the line.
right.
Yeah, we put it on the line. But-
Right, in other words, at that point, you're working as, you're putting on your AXE hat, not your realtor hat.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I see,
And like I said, we're in the process of becoming 100% non-compete. Like we're even removing ourselves from the live board like this week or next week or something like that. Just so that there's no association whatsoever with.
right, and then you
With,
become like a short
conflict
seller,
of interest.
so that's good.
And then, you know, I do have a separate brokerage that we're establishing in Queens that will do retail, but I'm going to stay at my
Right,
short sale office.
right.
But I do, like,
Oh, you
I
keep it separate, but
Yeah.
you're able to do
so
both.
I'll be principal brokers on both, but it's
Right.
like, it's,
A separate.
you're able to see and feel the separation. you
Right.
know? Because I work with a lot of realtors, and
Right.
anybody that works with me will tell you
Yeah,
that.
you're not looking to take their deals.
No, not at all. I mean, if anything, we collaborate and I make a little bit of change. I don't have to leave my office,
Right, it's a different.
and I'm good to go.
Very nice.
I'd rather you guys run around while I stay in my office, to be honest with you.
Right,
And then I get a piece of everybody's, you know,
Right.
anybody I do business with, so.
So do you, I'm sorry, so do you work on a commission with us, or do we pay you a flat fee for consultation services?
My goal is to charge you guys nothing. Charge the bank. That is my ultimate goal. It doesn't always fly. In the event that it doesn't fly, it comes out of commission. It could be set up as a co-broke or whatever, 1 point, 2 points, whatever it is. Depends on the workload, right? But I always try to put it on the HUD. And as long as it's allowed on the HUD and they approve the HUD, then
right.
you guys could honestly go get a listing and make 6%.
They still pay.
Who remembers those
6%.
days?
Yeah, right, I know.
I'm still getting 6% for my own short sales. You know what I'm saying?
But for the people who actually do sales, you don't get 6% anymore?
What do you mean?
So it's not 6%, it can be less than 6%?
No, I was making a joke, like back in the day, everybody used to get 6%. I haven't had a 6% traditional listing in about 2 years.
But banks approve
But
6%.
banks are approving 6%. Some will reduce your commission, like I just had one that reduced mine to 5 to make the numbers work. There's always that. At the end of the day, you know, when it comes to negotiating the HUD, sometimes they'll say, okay, well, we'll take 1% from the realtor, add 1% here,
Right,
and we'll make it work. Remember, it's a balancing act.
right,
So that's what happens sometimes. But typically, 6% to the realtors. Here's a tip, I want you guys to really remember this. If there's 2 brokers on the HUD, they'll approve the 6%. If there's 1 broker on the HUD, they're likely to knock it down to 5. That was a tip.
they're encouraging sharing.
Okay?
I'm sure you work with a large pool of investors.
I do.
when they get the short sale that closes, how many, like a percentage of them they give you the listing back?
Oh, you gotta talk to them about that.
Are you talking about in terms of you bringing a deal? Like, are you an investor? Like, where?
Oh, let's just say I'm an investor.
Okay.
We close a deal together.
Right.
I have plans to split it.
Mhm.
Like how many?
I'll be honest with you, I had never really capitalized on that before, as much as I
What was
should
the
have.
question? What was the question?
So the question was, how, like, out of all the investors I work with, how many or what percentage of files did I do that I get the exclusive listing back? And my answer
To
is
sell it.
to sell
Right.
it as a realtor. And my answer is I never really capitalized much on it. So I'll say it once in a while, honestly.
But it's a
Going
good
forward, my new model with my new brokerage, the name of the company is Mint Homes for a specific reason.
They're gonna be
Okay.
refurbished.
So that's something that I am recently going to pursue and made a recent decision to kind of capitalize on. Yes, ma'am.
So, I don't have, like, I guess I came here not because I want to find short sales to
Mhm.
do. I have people that want me to find it for them and like the whole investment thing, and like I want to do that, but I'm just like before I even get my foot here, like I don't want to put my, I'm new in the game. I don't want to put my foot in my ass, and I'm like,
So how do
this
you
is
take
yes.
those
How
two?
do you how can I do the whole thing and help them flip the house so I can get you know what I mean?
So you wanna, how do you learn to get the short sales?
Yeah, like, no, how do I get them the short sales, and then how do I, get them to like win on the investment, and then how do I sell the house for them? Like, how do I do all that?
Yeah.
It starts with getting the short sales.
Yeah,
Honestly.
go on.
It
So
really-
I have to
it really
find the
does.
short,
Let
I
me
need to
t-
find the deal.
Let me tell you guys something.
Online.
Let me tell you something that I like to emphasize all the time, and I tell this to my agents all the time. We are the commodity. I have 10 investors calling me a day. I have cash. I can close in 7 days. I am this.
Right.
I'm best friends with Jesus. Like everything. And I say, listen, man. Like my 96-year-old great grandma can close in 7 days and has a little cash too. Like what makes you so special when I already have my core? These people are calling me with all this money, but at the end of the day, what does that tell me? That somebody like me, not that I have a million exclusives, I only have a few because I process for so many, but when I am getting my own short sales, I'm the commodity. Everybody's calling me. And when you get the short sales, everybody's calling you. And what does that give you? Leverage. That was the exact word I was looking for. That's how you shake and bake in this business. You know what I'm saying? You gotta go out and get the listings. That's why I started with that.
So you get the
So
listings,
find
you
the
have the
state.
investor lined up, you have the list of investors, you get the listing. So how do you, like she's saying, how do you get them to stay loyal to you now so that you become the listing agency for them?
Like,
Yeah.
the relationship.
How do I get that? So again, that's not something that as a short. And this is, okay, so this is not coming from a short sale processor standpoint. This is coming from any general business
If they like your
standpoint.
service,
How do you keep somebody loyal
One
to you?
in,
You give them what they need,
yes,
let them know that they're replaceable,
Mhm.
and then you negotiate your terms accordingly.
Okay.
That's general business. That's business 101, not short sale 101. So my guys, I mean, the investors I do work with, that I do give deals, just like everybody else, they call me all the time. Sometimes I keep them at bay, sometimes I give them what they're looking for. This is just with my own, like I only keep about 8 or 10 exclusives at any time. My other 40 files I'm processing for other people. So when I do get the deal, I try to feed everybody that I have good relationships with. But when it's time for me to ask for something, I'll get it. I'll be honest with you, I'll get it.
Yeah, they're not gonna burn your bridge.
Never. Actually, my one of my I mean, this live is like killing me, but more. But I have a really good investor, my top guy, my ace. He's literally helping me establish my office in Queens, buying the building. Well, it was a proposal that was made. It's not locked in, but these are the things that these investors will help you out with when you build these relationships. You've also known him for 5-6 years. When he needs a building, I need some space. He's like, let's make it happen. You know, not too many people are willing to do that for you. So you'll get there. Bring the deals, people will want to talk to you, and then believe it or not, it will become genuine at some point.
So one more question. When people come to me, so there are attorneys and there are realtors and then there's short sale consultants.
Mhm.
So you're 2 out of the 3. So I would say unless you're an attorney that that specializes, like the
Negotiating
attorney-
short sales or.
Right,
or
so
closing
you
short
can
sales.
work together with a non-short sale attorney. In other words, that would be a good,
1,000%.
right,
1,000%. In fact, it obviously it helps to have an attorney that is familiar with short
Yes.
sales and is familiar with the HUD, because HUDs are not my strong suit, to be honest with you.
no,
So
attorneys
my
should, attorney should be
mine.
strong with the HUD. Right.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not really any conflict unless they're looking to like negotiate the deal. Once I hear that an attorney has a third-party authorization, I don't want to deal with the file, to be honest with you.
I
Because
see.
then we're stepping on each other. And people like the title attorney, no disrespect to any attorneys, but
Right.
one thing I tell people is attorneys do not get paid enough to negotiate short sales, to be quite honest with you. They don't get paid enough to care, to negotiate short sales.
I had a
And that's
file
just real talk.
I had a file once where the bank wouldn't speak to me because there was an attorney that was on
Right.
file, and we had to contact the attorney to release that, and she was like, well, I need to get paid, so I'm not gonna release anything until I get paid my
I've had
whatever
about
fee.
10 of those. I'm glad you brought that point up. Once an attorney attaches themselves to the short sale negotiation, they have to release most of the time, not even the homeowner can say, I fired my attorney. No, the attorney has to write a letter. What happens when the attorney wants to get paid? You got a situation on your hands. I have to deal like that right now, but we work through it. But it definitely happens. Try to avoid attorneys getting their hands on a third-party authorization. Seriously. Were you raising your hand?
I'm observing now.
Oh.
I asked a lot of questions today.
We're definitely getting into short sale 102, but it's okay. Any other questions? Yes.
When is short sale 102?
Oh, excellent, that's great.
Are you gonna have more than one because there's only 5 people allowed?
Well, my office is very small, just a handful of us there. My conference room is 6, so if you include myself, then that's 5. So I'm gonna do it 5 at a time. I have a big, call it now, flat screen there. I can hook up my laptop. We can really get into these things. We'll probably revisit a lot of stuff that we spoke about today, and we'll get into a little bit more of how to maneuver these deals and how to get on the phone with the banks, because that's something we didn't really talk about today in depth. So that's coming in short sale 102, and there will be short sale 103 also at the office. My primary goal, and I said this at the beginning, was to get you guys motivated to go out and get short sales, because people like to do it. You know, everybody loves the idea of a short sale. Everybody's a short sale specialist, right? If you drive through Queens, Brooklyn, every real estate office says short sale specialist on it, right? So everybody loves the thought and idea of it. Well, who's out here doing it? I want you guys to do it. You know, if you guys need my help, you guys can text me, whatever. Follow me on Instagram, and then we'll do, DM, direct message. All right. Whatever it is, email me. I'm old, man. In real estate years, I'm old, so. Whatever it is, like, we'll figure it out. Like, if you're like, hey, I'm going on this appointment, like, text me. You know what I'm saying? My goal here is, like, to collaborate with you guys. So get out there and do it. More so from short sale 101, from 102 and 103, I want you guys to actually be knowledgeable. You have these guys that it's like criminal, these realtors out here that don't know what they're doing.
And they'll lose the deal, you'll lose the deal for your client.
Forget about losing the
Yeah,
deal. What's worse than them losing the deal is getting the deal done and the client realizing later on that something's not right, whether it's a deficiency judgment that they didn't get waived,
Wow.
and now the client is on the hook for 80 grand or whatever. Like, these are things that we need to do the right way.
Yeah.
So if I have you guys as all extensions of me, if you will, for the time being, where you guys are doing it right, you're consulting with me, like, I'm gonna win whether you guys do a deal with me or not. But I wanna put the information out there so that we, you know what I'm saying? So that as realtors, we can do the right thing. You know? How many people have seen the same short sale in MLS for 2.5 years, you know? We all see that. This property again, like, for 2 years, you have short sales in the MLS. And what's even scary to think about is when they actually do close, the damages to the seller / borrower that they may not have realized, in terms of negotiations. Did they do it right? So that's all stuff we're gonna learn and talk about in short sale 102.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, I got the gist of everything from where we began, but let's say we're gonna summarize everything from the beginning to the end of what we've done here, right? what are our main points? Like, the beginning I know was to go on MLS or go on a program where you can go and find it. If
Right,
you
that's
can
your
give me
starting
like,
point.
you know, give me like a 6-step thing of what we learned here, so I
6?
can like, yeah, right, or like whatever, whatever, you know, let's make it minimalistic, so I can like, you know, just look back at these words,
Right.
and if I'm not here, if I can't go and watch this whole stream again for an hour and a half,
Right.
what should I take away from here? I know the first step is to go and find it on MLS, and then the second step was white, you know, like that,
Yeah.
white paper.
Well, you want the
Something
data.
like that.
The data is essential. So you need a data source. Like I said, MLS and white pages is not ideal. I have some wild stuff at the office that you guys will be amazed at. But not everybody has access to it at this time, and it probably wouldn't even be cost effective for you. So for the meantime, start with MLS. Seriously, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, data's a little bit slower to reach there. But yeah, get your data source in order. MLS is a good one because you already pay the dues. Then you get a phone number. You get a phone number, call them. Hey, I'm your local realtor. I'm a local realtor, whatever. I was going through public records because that's what I do because I'm a realtor. And I noticed you had a list pendants on the house, an LP, or you're in pre-foreclosure, whatever term you want to get comfortable with. So I'm reaching out, and maybe I can help you with anything. See if I can help you with anything. You know, however you want to define your pitch. You know.
Do you find they're receptive to that, or you're stabbing them in the heart? It's like you're exposing them.
Like I said, there's 3 responses. F you, I'm doing a loan mod, or let's sell this thing. Or let's sell this thing.
Oh. Right.
And let me tell you something. If you can block out 5 hours the evening, 4 to 9 or whatever the case may be, you will get short sales. You will get short sales. I promise you. You have people waiting for your phone call. I promise you.
It's almost a relief for them, because some of them are they're hiding.
Like they call me,
And
I've
they-
been called an
it's a-
angel or a gift so
Yeah,
many times.
that's true.
You know, I would like, look, my motive is business first,
Right.
because this is my livelihood. But if
You're
I can-
helping them.
But if I can reach out to them and they take what I have to offer, and they utilize my services, and it just so happens to be the blessing that they needed out of this whole situation, then that makes me 5 times as happier.
But here's the question. What's really in it for them? In other words, I wonder this, if they could get away with living in a house without paying rent for 4 years, 5 years, they're not allowed to get under the table or anything. So so they could say to you, thank you for calling, but right now I'm living rent free, I'm coasting. Call me, give me your number, like
Also,
at
yeah,
what
you could
point,
make some of the
their
benefits.
creditor's already, is that a valid question?
Absolutely, it's a 1,000% valid question.
Why, they might say, give me your card, and when
Benefits
they
of
lock my doors and I'll put my suitcases outside, I'll give you a call.
So you're looking for benefits of a short sale.
To the homeowner that's living rent free.
So, first and foremost, they'll get caught up. That's number one. What I find more than anything is these people want peace of mind.
True.
Okay? What I tell them is, listen, we'll be able to control this thing. Let's grab it by the horns. Let's control this thing. If we're talking to the bank, then we know the bank's moves. You understand? That's first and foremost. Less of an impact on the credit, yes. They'll be able to buy a home sooner.
Oh, that's a big point. You explain to them, if they sell with a short sale, it's not as bad as if it's actually foreclosed.
A foreclosure you're not buying for 7 years with
Right.
a traditional product.
Right.
And obviously this is a question for like Matt and other,
Right.
mortgage brokers and bankers. But traditionally, 7 years.
But
on a
for a short
foreclosure.
sale.
And traditionally, it's 2 to 3 years on a short sale.
So that's a
I think it's 3
that's a
years.
very good selling fish.
So you can get back into home ownership a lot sooner. I mean, I have some people that are like, well, I'm leaving New York, screw New York, I'm going down south where everything is cheaper. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna buy a house down south. No, you're not, because you still need a loan. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So whether your house is $500,000 or $50,000, if you need to borrow that 50, it's not happening.
Right.
You're gonna pay rent for the next 7 years. Okay? Matt, give me some other
To add on to that, you can do 1 year out of short sale and foreclosure, but the rate is gonna be terrible.
Astronomical, right.
It's gonna be
Say it one more
And the
time.
down payment is higher, right?
The down payment's
Say it one more time.
Can you repeat that louder, please?
I said you can do 1 year out of foreclosure or short sale, but the interest rate is gonna be terrible. And your down payment's gonna be more like 20% versus a traditional, because it's not a traditional, conventional, or FHA.
That's an alternative product, right?
Yeah, that's an alternative kind of hard money kind of route that you gotta go if you're doing it.
Do you offer that?
Yeah, yeah.
So are we speaking about New York State when we say 3 to 5 years and 7 years?
Nationwide, generally speaking, nationwide.
If you want FHA conventional, FHA 3 years, conventional is more like 7 years.
So,
You want to tell us the difference between the classes 102 and 103?
102 and 103. So 102, we'll recap everything that we're doing here. We'll get a little bit into what I do on the phones and what I do all day. 103 is, we'll call it the creativity class.
More like sales, your business,
It's creativity class.
farming.
You'll find out at Choice at 102.
Is there a fee?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't bring that up.
Nothing else.
Maybe you should bring that up.
Oh, sure. So I'm going to add
Yes.
to what we were talking about.
Thank you.
Incentives, also the relocation assistance we were speaking about before.
Right,
So the relocation is that, if you get foreclosed on, basically the sheriffs come and tell you to get the hell out.
right.
Obviously you have to win the judgment and stuff, and there's a whole legal due process with that. But again, it's more controlled. You can control your finances. Not to mention all these judgments they're talking about, these liens,
They'll
we're
be
able to make a
both.
chunk of them go away.
Right,
In fact, we need pretty much all of them to go away. And it benefits the homeowner, I had a
That's true.
homeowner a town over in Springfield Gardens. She did a short sale on her house and went to Jamaica with no debt, and then
That's
she
good.
was still able to collect her pension with no garnishments, nothing like that. She was able to move on, legitimate hardship, everything, but that's life, if you get hurt and you can't work and you're forced to retire early, now you have all these debts and bills, but people don't realize they can all be negotiated. That $54,000 number that I showed you guys on Exhibit C, we're not paying $54,000.
right.
We're not. And they'd be stupid to not negotiate, because otherwise this
They get
person's gonna
nothing.
go to their grave with that debt,
Mm-hmm.
or move to a different country, or just, live cash, buy cash for the rest of their life, because their income is not enough where they can just write a check for 55 grand, ever. 60-year-old lady, she's not gonna go get a new career as a stockbroker and make all this money and pay 55 grand. It's not gonna happen.
She's gonna come
So-
work with you.
So these financial institutions or whatever agencies, they understand the situation. Once you say I'm doing a short sale to stay off a foreclosure, they're willing to play ball with you, for sure. Pennies on the dollar. Everything's negotiable. Everything.
So how long would the class be 102 and the fees?
There's no fees.
Why you still asking about fees?
I heard somebody else.
She drank too much
I'll tell you, yeah,
There's no
that's
fees.
true.
Somebody drank too
I'm not
much
selling anything.
mimosa.
That's
Oh,
funny.
wow.
I'm not selling anything. Listen, I'm here to meet each and every one of you. I expect everybody hits me up and takes me out for a drink. You know what I'm saying? I'm good with that. If we do business, great. But again, I need more knowledgeable realtors out there getting business, doing what I do. Because like I said, I see way too many short sales on the MLS for 2 years, and that shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. So the more knowledgeable you guys are, the smoother this little whatever we have going on with LIBOR in this little area, the smoother it's gonna run in the real estate world. Which does translate to more opportunity for me. That's all I can ask for.
So the 1 day class, 102, 1 day class?
Yeah, just a short couple hours.
Oh.
And we could just message you to be input into it.
I'll send out an email to everybody.
Okay.
Hopefully everybody signed in and left business cards. Did you guys? Okay.
I don't know the business card.
You might need another sponsor because you might need it someplace more than 5 people where you can have more than 5 people.
Listen, I could run it Monday through Friday, do 5 classes in a week, but just so that I can make sure that we're hitting home on every point, I prefer to be a more intimate group. It's a lot to learn, and it's even hard for me to teach. I actually had to scale back on the paperwork this morning, and this is 101, keep in mind. So there's a lot that goes into it. I just want to make sure everybody's tracking. So if you guys have to do 101 again, then come back, But yeah, 102 is going to be just me and 5 of you, and just kind of really hitting all these key points again, and then a little bit more.
And then 104 is gonna be a field trip. We're gonna go house hunting.
Let's
Take our
do it.
back-
One
We
of
can arrange
three
that.
We'll take our
creative.
backpacks
We
and
can arrange that.
camp out in
Yes, I
Queens. We'll
love
camp out
it.
in Queens
I'll be honest
Yes,
with
with
you.
our mimosas.
So, order mimosas to our vacant houses.
Yeah. That's how you'll get the buyers.
And the Christmas party?
Stick with me. And
I do Christmas party, yes.
Yes. I
So-
love it.
One of the funnest parts about my job is actually like when the house is wrecked, I love it. Like I just started this whole social media thing. Actually, that was an inspiration to even do something like this. I've always been like a hermit, they call it. I sit in my office and I just geek out a little bit. But so I just put something up on social media at a vacant house that we just got in Elmont. You know, perfect house is wrecked. Like that is like the most fun part of this job. When you do it in volume, you see some things like that. You know those houses with the X on the outside of it. You know, once you get the approval from the town to go in, and you jump through windows, and you know you see a lot of interesting stuff. So
I just saw one coming here in Elmont. It might be what you're talking about.
there's a lot going on in Elmont. There are a lot of them.
yeah, there's a lot of them. There's also a list for that too. Go down to the town of Hempstead and submit a FOIL for every vacant property in Elmont or Valley Stream or whatever's in town of Hempstead jurisdiction. Seriously, they're forced to give it to you. So does everyone know what FOIL is?
No.
It's like a freedom of information something. Freedom of something like that. But anyways, it's a form. It's a form you fill out. I am requesting this information. 20 days later, they'll get back to you with some type of information. So
Now, what information does the FOIL provide?
I typically use a FOIL for all my short sales if it's in the town of Hempstead. You go to different agents, to a different building, depending on the county and village, et cetera, et cetera. But typically, like town of Hempstead, for example, I'll go down, submit a FOIL, and I'll say, I would like information on any and all violations, open permits, et cetera, on this specific property. Again, 20 days later, sometimes more, they will get back to me by snail mail with what's open, okay? So New York City's a little easier. You go on the DOB website, Acris, everything is there. If I need a deed, I gotta go down to 206 Old Country Road and pull it from the basement. And then I go to town of Hempstead.
Yesterday, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
New York City is definitely easier to work with when it comes to finding information, but the FOIL is definitely your best friend at least for me, because I can find out all the stuff ahead of time. I can find out, okay, they have a work without a plumbing permit, you know, whatever, or they got there was litter on the lawn. These are things that are gonna hold you up by closing. Have a $12 ticket that's gonna hold me up by closing, you
I have
know?
a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Another one. Sorry. So, like, when you have like these houses that are being foreclosed on that you work on, you have to close it out with like contracting needs.
Not that you have to, you need a remedy or a solution, I'll say, and I'm
But
saying
it,
that
and it
loosely.
has to be with a contractor. And they
No.
done, no?
Well, it depends what you're looking to get done. I mean, if you're looking to fix a bathroom, obviously, you know, you have to consult with your
Contractor.
local
Yeah.
building, he's a contractor. I know him from somewhere, but I just.
I know where. to.
Where? Tell me.
Jim.
The gym. I thought it was gonna be
No.
at a house.
24, right? Or
I've been there a few times, yeah.
you go there like.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Oh, maybe.
We'll discuss.
Okay.
We'll discuss.
Body doubles.
No, I've seen this guy at the house before.
Maybe it's just somewhere else.
But do you have to use a contractor if the work calls for it? If you're closing a regular deal and the buyer's like, hey, I need you to fix this, then you know, obviously you do your traditional contracting work, you get whatever they're looking for, remedy. But when it comes to a short sale, if you're buying something as is, cash deal, whatever the case may be, you're buying it as is.
Okay.
So what the title company is looking for, and Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, is they're looking for open permits,
Yep.
violations,
Busted.
they're looking for judgments, like I
Yep.
said, stuff like that. So you need either a remedy or some type of solution. Something that we love to do, that I love to suggest, that you guys don't always love, is putting money in escrow.
That's right. That's right.
So that's easier for me.
That, because this way the sale could go through.
Right, the sale goes through and we fix it later. I'm
So
definitely able to figure
if
it
you're
out
dealing
like
with a
that.
lender, some lenders won't allow it.
If we're dealing with a lender,
But if
yeah.
it's cash deal, that's usually the best
Right.
way to go.
So anything that can be remedied, we'll put it in escrow. If they see a foreseeable solution for it, we can put it in escrow. I have a deal right now that has a second lien that I cannot find for the life of me. That's something they will not escrow for.
What do you say,
Between
what,
the-
what can't you find?
A second mortgage, so junior lien.
So what you're saying is, you can't find the source, like who to go to?
I don't know who to pay.
Oh, right. Especially a lot of these lenders went out of business.
Yeah, it was a 2006, it was a
A lot
2006
of, lot
loan.
of lenders, so what do you do with that?
Still working on it.
So
You-
if a company goes out of business, then
It's usually transferred somewhere, but you'll have a
Right,
chain. that-
so-
And then the attorney general, sometimes that's where the buck stops, and
I've literally tried. So I have a few tricks left, but I'm gonna get to it. But so basically with this one is there's a chain. So there's always a chain.
Right.
Whenever you have one lender and servicer to the next, there should be some sort of chain. It should never be a breaking chain. Right. What happened on this particular one? Both were originated with New Century Mortgage, which went out of business in 2008. The crash. He sold everything off. He transferred the first one many times, but guess what? The second one stayed exactly where it was, which went out of business. So I found out the investor in the loan. Remember, we differentiated the investor versus the servicer. The investor's Goldman Sachs. I called Goldman Sachs. I got all the way down to somebody in the basement who said, "Yeah, we have your loan." I'm like, "Great, can I pay you off?" "No, you gotta talk to the servicer." "Who's the servicer?" "Litton Loan Servicing." "Okay, well, Litton Loan Servicing was acquired by Aquin also during that time." "Well, Aquin, hey, I have a Litton Loan Servicing deal. Can I pay you?" "We have no record of that."
Right.
"Who do we pay?" And we can't close until we pay somebody. Anybody.
So what do you
Can't
do?
pay you. I can't pay you.
So what do you do in a situation like that?
What do I do? I'm almost in a place where I'm saying screw it, but I won't get there yet. I outsourced somebody to kind of figure it out for me, but that's really on the short sale side. Let me just backtrack a little bit. I want to close the deal.
If you get a title company to insure it, let's say it's a very old loan for $8,000 a second, it's $8,000 credit line, whatever. You just can't find it, and you have a title company that will insure it.
And we'll close.
Right.
That takes the liability off of myself, the buyer, everybody. And
No,
puts
it's a
liability on you
business,
guys.
it's a business
Yeah,
decision.
it's
that
definitely a business
If it's
decision.
a small loan, it's very old, it's 32 years old, or.
You know, I mean, look, to the title company, everything I'm saying makes sense. And if I gave him any piece of paper that made sense, doesn't even have to be a full satisfaction, he would do it. But I can't produce a single shred because everybody's hands off. This was a sticky mortgage-backed security originated with Goldman Sachs, so nobody wants to touch it. So, again, just backtracking a little bit. I do want to close the deal, but time is not on our side, of course. I got a foreclosure sale that I found out about yesterday coming up 20th of next month, 4/20. So that's happening. I have a lot of quiet giggles.
Yeah, you
It
clap
is.
harder.
It is.
You should have the remote back, then just start and stop.
I know, right? That's what we gotta do. That's what we gotta do. We're still live? We're still live, all right, I'm sorry. My
It was
bad.
still, listen, it's my audience. They already know this.
The audience is good, all right, so,
My friend from California.
so, time is not on our side, as in terms of what my objective is. We can do a quiet title action, which we would hire, an attorney to do, that can make whoever is owed, I don't know the exact process, but we can bring an action to clarify this whole mess, and if there's nobody to pay, the judge will dismiss it altogether. But again, it's a short sale, it's time sensitive. We don't have a year, 9 to 12 months to do a quiet title action in these scenarios. We have 45 days. You know what I'm saying? If the first short sale is approved, I have 45 days to close it. I'm not gonna figure out this second lien in 45 days. At that point, I'm gonna have an expired short sale approval, and then I can't close it. I have to request an extension, et cetera, et cetera. Then by the time I request 2-3 extensions, the bank is tired of me and just drops the whole short sale file altogether. So timing is everything.
Right, and the only comfort to you is that whatever issue you're having, the next guy's gonna have too. So the only way he'll do it is if he finds a title company willing to omit
Willing
it.
to, which there are title companies
Right.
out there.
Yeah, what is the lien amount, that, do you know the specifics? How-
107.
How much?
107, the junior,
When it was how long ago was it taken out?
06.
Pretty recent. Some things do expire, but not that.
I mean, we'll figure it out, but that's definitely like 103, maybe even 104. So,
That's already law school.
right?
Okay, thank you.
Any last questions? Like anything? I mean, I feel pretty confident right now. So.
I'm ready for 102.
Okay.
And 3, a field trip.
When are we going on the field trip?
Yeah, a field trip.
Thank you.
When's 102?
102. I'm gonna send out an email with a few dates. I'm gonna do. I can probably just to get you all in if you guys are interested. Can I have a raise a hand? Who's interested in 102?
I was ready to fight people.
So okay, so like 3-4 groups. I can try to squeeze them all into like next week, so 5. So I'll send out an email to everybody, RSVP, and then
Yes, please,
If you-
RSVP.
yeah. If you came with a friend and you want to be in 102 with them, just send me a separate email aside from the RSVP, so I can.
Your seating request.
Yes, see like a plane. Right?
You'll need a social plan to go with that Instagram.
So everybody's good on questions? Okay. Is there any food left?
It's tons of food.
Yeah.
Yo, please grab food.
Nice to see you.
Grab food.
It was good, right?
I wonder why there's no one who hosts this.
Everybody,
I saw you and I heard.
Like,
Actually, one of them members
but y'all grab some food. Thank y'all all for coming out. If y'all have any questions, you know how to reach me. You know how to reach Phil. I appreciate all of you. What's going on? What's going on? I didn't talk much about me. Huh? You call me.
So I want to see the sign outside. Just that short sale, the specialist. Oh, this is great.
So for
Why? You know any Deborah
I'm just saying, you see the emails that I forwarded to you? He is, and the bank, the bank attorney and the buyer attorney, the bank attorney. No, I'm telling you now, the bank attorney will not. That's his, that's, everybody just told about.